everyone. Welcome back to the Change Your Mind podcast, where we explore personal development, spirituality, and science. I'm your host, Chris Ashley. I am really excited. We are going to talk about mental illness and the mind-body connection today with a phenomenal guest. First, couple quick announcements. Head over to the links in the show notes. You're going to want to do this. You're going to find links for my amazing guest. You're going to find a link to my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. You'll find links to free downloads, courses, events. You'll figure out how to stay in touch with me and my guests. So definitely become part of the community. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things. Oh, and as always, this podcast is a part of the Los Angeles Tribune Podcast Network. We are doing a lot in personal development. We have some amazing live and virtual events coming up. I was just on stage, sharing the stage with Joseph McClendon last week, and just phenomenal. So yeah, definitely stay in touch with what we're doing. Hi, I'm Chris. When I was younger, I went through trauma that caused me to feel broken and lost. But my life changed after I had a spiritual awakening. Since then, I've dedicated my life to studying and learning from masters all around the world that have helped me to create a life of fulfillment and abundance beyond my wildest dreams. Now I'm dedicated to sharing everything I've learned so that you don't have to suffer for decades like I did. I've seen people's lives completely transformed, and I share it all right here. Okay, with me today, I have Katie Farinas. So Katie Farinas is a mom, seasoned nurse, yoga teacher, Dharma, which means life purpose coach, spiritual teacher, and host of the podcast Mom on the Verge. I've been a guest on that podcast. Go listen to it. It's amazing. Katie has been passionate about all things health and wellness from a young age. Taking a deep dive into the mind-body connection, Katie became a certified yoga teacher, a meditation facilitator, and a warrior for improving mental health. Katie believes that the opposite of depression is not happiness, but purpose. I love that. And she is deeply committed to helping women step into their purpose to make their lives and this world a better place. Katie also believes in the power of authenticity, sharing our truth to help heal ourselves and others. The importance of community and how love and compassion can spread outward like ripples in a pond to create a kinder, safer, and more equitable world. It's so lovely. Welcome, Katie. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And we've kind of gotten a chance to work with each other a little bit over the past month even. And I love what you're doing. And thank you for everything that you do for the world. So I like to start all my episodes the same way. And that is by asking my guests what their origin story is. So what is it? What was that journey that you went on to become this warrior for mental health and this yoga teacher and spiritual life coach?
Yeah, so I think like most people, I had most people in this world, in this life coach world, I had a journey where I had to heal myself, and then I learned so much from that journey, and I am turning around and helping others. But I would actually say that my journey started in my childhood because I had a grandmother with really severe mental health issues. And back then, I don't think we knew as much as we know now. There weren't as many therapies. It wasn't talked about as much. Things were a little more hush hush than they are now. But it really impacted my family. She moved into our house at one point, and she was very, very ill. And my parents almost got a divorce. It was, it was a tough childhood. Because of her mental illness. And then I grew up, I moved out of my house, I, went on with my life, and I didn't really think about it too much after that until I had my first child. And then I experienced my first bout of depression, postpartum depression, which I actually didn't really recognize in the beginning as postpartum depression. It was kind of sneaky and came in a way that I wouldn't have anticipated it to come. So it went untreated for a really long period of time. But I eventually got back on my feet. And once again, I was like, okay, I'm just moving on with my life. And as my daughter got older, we started to see some very serious signs of mental health struggles with my daughter. She has very severe OCD. anxiety, depression. There was a period of her life where she was suicidal. And we really went through a lot trying to get her the help that she needed. And then it became evident to me that actually mental health disorders were really rampant in my family. They were left untreated, but they were there. So my mother, my grandmother, my brother, now my child. And so this kind of swimming in a world of people with mental health struggles has been my entire life. And including myself, having bouts of depression after postpartum, and then again after the birth of my second child because I developed chronic migraine. And that is a really debilitating disorder that brought me to the edge. It brought me to the point of really not wanting to be here anymore. And I decided I would not leave my kids without a parent. And so I decided that I had to keep fighting and figure out a way through. And that is where yoga kind of came onto the scene for me, because I just was really lost and didn't know what to do or where to turn. I tried every therapy that was available to me, and it just wasn't helping. And I was really debilitated. I remember just hearing a little voice in my head saying, go to yoga, go to yoga. And yoga had been something that I had done on and off throughout the years. I had really done it just as a physical asana practice. I had not really delved into the philosophy at all. But I just listened to that voice, and I decided to go. And that's where my journey with yoga began, and where my journey with that mind body connection really began.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I appreciate your vulnerability, and you said it so perfectly in the beginning. You're like like most life coaches, like I've gone through it. I've made it out the other side. Now I'm trying to help other people. And I relate a little bit on a personal level. So my mother-in-law, she actually wrote a memoir about it, but she grew up with a schizophrenic mother and grandmother, and she has memories of being a kid, and she's turning 70 in like a week. But she has memories of being a kid and visiting her mother at a mental health facility, and they were literally giving her shock treatment because
My
they
grandmother
just
had that as
didn't
well.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah, yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
yeah.
And just,
Hmm.
hearing about how it affected her growing up, I empathize a lot.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned that postpartum snuck up on you. It came in a
Mhm.
sneaky way. It wasn't how you would expect it. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Because maybe it'll help someone else who might have it and not recognize the symptoms.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, one thing I learned about myself after becoming a mother is that sleep deprivation for me is a real trigger for mental health disorders like depression and anxiety. But I did not know that prior to becoming a mom, because I really hadn't ever had any significant periods of my life where I wasn't sleeping. But what happened with me was that when I became a mother, I had this intense, almost what I would call compulsive need to take care of my child. But it was not this overwhelming love. I didn't feel love. I felt like I had to make sure that she was sleeping and that she was eating and that her schedule was correct and that, she was safe and all these things that you would think would come out of love, but I didn't feel the love. It was just this compulsion to make sure that she was okay. And there was this real disconnect with the bond. So I was doing all the things, but I wasn't feeling any of the things that I thought I should be feeling.
It
Um, Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was
It's
just
okay.
gonna say it was almost like you had to have control over something that you didn't have control over, right? By like checking everything off the list.
Yes, yes. And again, you just recently became a mom, like there's no control, right? Right? Our kids, they do what they're gonna do. They come into this world with their own personalities. My daughter is still a troubled sleeper. She was a troubled sleeper from birth. And no matter what I did with sleep schedules and blackout shades and white noise and schedules and all that, she was not gonna sleep. And so there's a real loss of control there. Yes. And so I was trying to gain some sort of control. I was trying to make sure that she was okay, but without feeling this connection to her. And then I started just losing interest in pretty much everything in life. Like there was no joy. I felt no joy. So if you asked me, are you sad and depressed? I would have said, no, I'm not sad. I'm numb. I just don't really feel much of anything. And that seeped into my marriage, my relationships with my friends, with my family. I was just like a robot, just doing the tasks, taking care of checking the list, but without really any emotion. And so it took me a long time to get out of that because no one really recognized I didn't see it in myself. My husband, who, God bless his heart, has no experience with any of these things, didn't recognize it. No one really recognized it until at one point, my daughter, I couldn't get her to sleep once again. And she was in her crib. And I remember staring down at her and being so frustrated that I couldn't get her to sleep. And I just started crying. Like finally the tears came. It took for a really long time, but finally the tears came. And I'm crying over her as she's in the crib crying. And she all of a sudden stops crying and like stares at me like, what the heck is going on here? And that's the moment where I was like, okay, we have a problem here.
Yeah.
Like something's very wrong here. I don't feel this connection. I don't feel this sense of love. I don't feel anything. And now I'm crying in front of my child who is clearly in shock and has stopped crying because she's witnessing me cry. So it was a journey. It was a journey back from that and trying to find myself again and trying to figure out who I was in this new role as mom. And in fact, in my opinion, there's a lot of grief that comes along with becoming a mom that we don't talk about. And I was feeling all of that grief, and I felt like I shouldn't be feeling it because I'm a mom and I have this healthy child and like isn't everything wonderful, but you also lose big parts of yourself, and I was grieving that and I had nowhere to put that grief, and I think that's what was happening.
I really appreciate you sharing all of that. Like I said, I think people will be able to connect with that because the stories that you hear are you're just going to fall so in love with this little thing, and it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like that was my experience, but I had like severe anxiety leading up to birth that I would connect. Like that was my fear, and then I did, and I was like, okay. But I don't know what the stats are off the top of my head, but there are so many people who go through postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And it's just not really spoken about still. It still feels really taboo. So I think it's really important that you're out here spreading the word. What was it that really helped you get through it? Was it just the awareness and then you could seek help, or what kind of help did you seek?
So I did not seek help, which in retrospect was such a mistake. But I really just dealt with it on my own. And I have always, I've always been a very physical person. So we was talking about that mind body connection that I really went to when I went into yoga, began deeply diving into yoga. But for me, being physical has always been extremely important. So I kind of channeled all of that grief and pain into physical things, running, just working out in all kinds of ways that allowed me to have a sense of control, have a sense of like feeling like myself again. Um, Having some space for myself away from my baby, where I just had some time where it was just me, those types of things. And it was really just time and a lot of using my body to work the grief out of my system. And I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I've always been a pretty intuitive person, and I've always listened to my body. And so that's what my body was asking me to do. And I was like, I just have to do this, and I have to find a way to do it. I have to get childcare. I have to make sure that I can do this thing that I just feel in my gut I need to do. And it's how I worked my way back to myself. But it took a long time. I think my daughter was probably 2 by the time I really felt that connection that I really wanted and felt like myself again.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time to like be in a hole. I like that you said the physical is kind of what helped you move that grief through your body. Like I literally write about that in my book, that movement is such a powerful way to release repressed emotions. And grief is a really powerful emotion. In Chinese medicine, they say that it like lives in your lungs. So it kind of makes sense that movement where you're like breathing deeply, especially in a practice like yoga or meditation, is a great way to just like move that energy because it's just
Yeah.
stuck energy.
It is.
It's really
It is.
fascinating.
And when you're in grief, if you do participate in breath work practices, it's not uncommon to just start spontaneously crying because you are moving. Yes, you're moving that energy of grief out of your system. Yeah.
How many yoga classes have you just bawled your eyes through?
Oh, so many. So many,
Great.
so many.
Same, same,
Yeah.
same.
I'm like, okay, it's doing its job. So that's great. That's fine. I'm just gonna grab this box of tissues over here. You all keep going. Don't mind me.
That's literally what got me hooked on yoga is I practiced at this place that was donation based and there was like 100 people in the room and I could go into the middle of the room and be anonymous in a room full of strangers and move and just like after a shitty day and just cry and like that's what I got hooked on.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
emotional
absolutely.
release.
The emotional release. Yeah, you just feel mind, body, soul. You feel so much better afterwards. And
Yeah.
I again, like I said back then, I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt like this pull, and I knew I had to go, and I knew that I felt better afterwards. And it was only later that I actually learned what I was doing and why it was working.
Isn't that interesting? Like intuition and like your body knows what it needs, really. You
Yeah,
just have to listen.
yeah.
So you also talked about migraines and that they were so debilitating that you were thinking about like ending it all,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And and I think like I know a lot of people who suffer from migraines and they're like pretty awful. Like I've never had one, but I've had tension headaches, but that's like a pretty intense place to be that you're like, okay, I'm like thinking about checking out early because this pain is so overwhelming. And I think even if people don't have migraines, they can relate to that. So how did you figure that out? You kind of hinted that it was related to mental health too. So I'd love for you to just kind of dive in deeper to that.
So migraine was a real, I think motherhood and migraine for me in my life were both catalysts for evolution, for expansion, growth, because there was a lot of suffering in both. And I believe that, we are each given our particular set of sufferings in our lives for the lessons that we need to learn in this particular lifetime. So motherhood was a real challenge for me on numerous levels, whether it be the sleep deprivation and the child with, significant struggles, both physical and mental health struggles, and then my own physical health struggles. And what was your question? What did you just ask me?
Well, I guess like just kind of exploring the connection between the mental illness and the migraines and how you kind of came out of that hole too.
So, okay, yes. So, I I can't speak to the connection between the mental health and migraine because migraine is still a very big part of my life to this day. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't. And I still am continuously working on, new therapies and treatments and alternative treatments and all the things to try to not make it a part of my life. But as it is right now, it is a part of my life. And so there's been a huge amount of spiritual growth that has come from living a life with chronic pain, and surrendering to the present moment again and again and again and again. Because when you live with a chronic pain condition, your life does not look like it would look if you did not have that condition. And so it has been a big spiritual teacher for me, right? Because once again, it's a loss of control. I don't have control over this condition. And I don't have control, honestly, day to day, how I'm going to feel or what I'm going to be able to do. And it has changed every aspect of my life. And so it's been just a tremendous teacher for me in learning to embrace what is and be really present and grateful for each and every moment. And it's in a way that it's hard to do if you haven't experienced that level of suffering because we take for granted so much. It's so common to take for granted our health day to day and just feeling good day to day. So it's been a big spiritual teacher, but I can't say that I found a connection other than that. Like I couldn't say that I, got to the root of my migraine through some sort of spiritual experience.
How often do you get them?
Like 25 days a month usually.
Oh wow,
Yes,
that's a lot, Katie.
yes, yes.
Wow, that's a lot. And I'm sure you've tried diet and emotion code and all those things.
All the things. I've tried everything that you could possibly really think of. I shouldn't say that. There's more out there. There's always more out there, right?
Like
But
Tony
and I
Robbins.
will, yes, there's always more out there, and I will never stop, investigating and trying. But yes, the list of things that I've tried both in the traditional medical community and alternative medicine and the spiritual world is very long. And sometimes I think that I just haven't learned enough yet, right? That this is my lesson this lifetime, and I still have more to learn. And so this will be with me until I have learned what I need to learn, whether it be this lifetime or the next lifetime or whenever that is.
I totally agree. And, I've had different chronic pains that I've dealt with for like actually tension headaches. I would get probably like 18 days a month for a really long time. But once you figure it out and you look back, you're like, oh, it's so fucking obvious. Like it's so obvious.
Yes. Well, that's what I say about Dharma because I Dharma coach. And when you figure out your Dharma, you're like, oh, God, it was right in front of me the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah, yeah, I know. So I hope I have that moment where I look
You
back at my
will.
I feel that way. Yeah.
You will, because you're on the path. And I totally agree that it's lessons that we sign up for, and and that's not to belittle it at all. Like it sucks when you're going through pain. Like it sucks. And I feel like there's a lot of like shame and pressure in the spiritual community to be like, you can heal yourself naturally, right? It's all, and that's why I was like kind of tentatively being like, have you tried these things? Because I think that we can heal ourselves and that pain are messages from our body, but I also think we sign up for things, right? And that we have lessons to learn, like you said. And like I've used this example on the podcast before, but it's like one of my favorite examples. Vishen Lakhiani, I always pronounce his last name wrong, but he's the founder of MindBody.
Mhm.
He teaches Jose Silva's meditation method, and that's like it's self hypnosis. I like loved Jose Silva. I was so excited that he was teaching this, but he meditates and he uses the law of attraction and he has like manifested amazing things, and he's like this big CEO, and he was trying to fix his eyesight. He had really bad eyesight, and he would like meditate on it and visualize it and use Jose Silva's self-healing method and all these things, and it wasn't happening. And then one day he walked out of his apartment and there was a brand new billboard outside and it said LASIK eye surgery. And it was like, that was the message from the universe. It was like, here, you wanted it, here it is. And so I think that there's this misconception that like we can't also have Western medicine within that.
Yes, absolutely. And I fell victim to that for a
Yeah.
long time, believing that again there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't able to heal myself through meditation, through breath work, through visualization, through all these other techniques. And again, I'm really open. I always say, never say never. Try anything. What do you have to lose other than a little bit of time and money? But isn't that worth it in the end? But yes, feeling really guilty that I must be doing something wrong, because if I was doing it right, then it would be fixed. And so yeah, I had to like climb out of that as well, and then come back again to accepting the present moment exactly as it is, and also remaining open to the possibilities that exist.
Yeah. And if nothing else comes out of it, you're probably a much more empathetic coach to your clients,
Yeah, yes,
right?
it does give you, yes, a tremendous level of empathy. Yeah.
So, it seems like we're in agreement on all of this. And also like there's this side that we've kind of been hinted at, that mental health can be really connected to our physical health. Like I like to say that like repressed emotions aren't the only thing that causes pain and illness, but repressed emotions will always cause pain and illness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so I'd love for you to just speak about that a little bit, and you've had a lot of experience with that. Um, And especially with your daughter too now.
Yeah. In my personal experience, I think repressed emotions led to mental health struggles for sure. Again, going back to like my origin story growing up, there's a lot going on in my family with my grandmother, but also my brother had autism and ADHD and Tourette's. And so there was a lot going on with him, and I was the easy kid. And so I always kind of identified as the easy kid. I never wanted to make any trouble in the family. I didn't want my parents to have to worry about me. And so I pushed a lot of stuff down, not to have to burden them because they were already so burdened. But on top of that, I grew up in a generation where you didn't really express negative emotions. That was not acceptable in that generation. So you could express happiness, excitement, gratitude, but it was not really acceptable to express sadness, frustration, feeling upset about what happened and what happened to you and how you were treated, those types of things. And so I started repressing emotions as a very young child, without even knowing it. And then that led into my adulthood, where it's kind of like stiff upper lip, pull your bootstraps up, move on. And so when I was dealing with postpartum depression after my daughter, when I was dealing with the pain of chronic migraine, I kind of still had that mentality where I didn't share these emotions. And I thought that having negative emotions was a bad thing and I needed to just push them away, pull up my bootstraps, move on, and do what I needed to do. But that really led to really severe depression and nearly attempting suicide because I was not allowing myself to process the emotions and then make meaning out of them, right? So there's two parts of it. There's three parts of it. There's feeling the emotion, there's processing the emotion, and then there's making meaning from the emotion, right? We don't have to identify as our emotions. We are not our emotions, but our emotions are there to communicate with us. They're there to be teachers and to teach us things and tell us things that we need to know. And if I can't feel them and I can't process them, I can't learn from them. And it was when I learned to do that that I saw light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what yoga really gave to me. I would go to class in those early days when I was still in just tremendous amounts of pain and pretty dysfunctional in my life. And I wouldn't really be able to take the class because I had too much pain. So I would go and I would lay on the mat and I would do anything that I could physically do. But honestly, a lot of times I would just lay on the mat. But I would walk out with just a little bit of hope. There was like a little light that was seeping into such deep darkness. And that's what kept bringing me back, is that every time I came out, at least for a little while after class, I saw a little bit of light. And that light just started to grow and grow and grow. And that didn't mean I didn't stop searching for treatments and, advocating for myself and trying to, improve my physical health. But it was really in this processing of the emotions. And I think that's what I was doing on the mat. I was allowing myself to feel in a safe space, feel, process, and then hearing the wisdom of the yoga teachings that allowed me to make meaning out of what I was feeling and experiencing.
That's really powerful. And I just have to commend you for going and just laying on the mat because so many people are so embarrassed doing that in a yoga class, or they think they have to go in and like work really hard. And I can't name a single yoga teacher that would have a problem with someone going and laying on a mat in the back of the room, right? Maybe we're in the back of the room where new students can't see you, but like that's your yoga for the day. And I just, anyone listening, like you have permission to do that. I will universally give you permission to do that. And even if it's like a freaking Ashtanga class, like, or a Bikram class, like it's okay.
Yeah.
And if they have a problem, that's not a yoga studio you want to be at anyway.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm really curious. You talked about feeling, processing, and making meaning out of your emotions. And I'm curious what the difference to you between feeling and processing is. Like, what is processing to you?
Processing to me is, I guess, moving it. So sometimes the feeling can feel stuck. A lot of times, for most people, if we're aware of our bodies, we will feel our emotions in a certain spot, commonly in the chest, in the heart area is very common, and the stomach is very common, but it could be really anywhere. I mean, it could be in your leg, right? You can feel your emotions anywhere. But feeling the emotion is going to that space where you feel it. And what does it feel like? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Does it, is it large? Is it small? Is it, what does it, how do you visualize this emotion and feel it in your body? Processing is getting to start moving. For me, it's not stuck in that spot. I feel it starting to move out of the space that it's in and out of my body. And when it starts moving out of my body, I think it gives enough space between me and the emotion to capture the meaning that's there. And that is one of the reasons why I love breath work and yoga, and all types of mind-body practices, tapping. There are so many practices, because it helps move the energy, because emotions are just energy. That's all they are. So it helps to move the prana, the life force, the chi, whatever background you come from. It helps move that energy out of that stuck spot in your body so that you can release it and see the meaning behind it.
I love that definition. What a cool definition. That absolutely makes sense. And I was going to ask what your favorite modality to do that is personally, but then you named like 5 that work. And yeah, I love it. That's great. What a great answer. Okay, so I want to go back to your bio actually, because there's some really interesting things in there that I want to talk to you about. One of which you say the opposite of depression is not happiness, it's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also heard people say depression is soul suppression, and it kind of sounds the same. And I love that. And it sounds the same to me. So talk to me about that. Like, was when you were, especially I'm thinking back to you, like going through postpartum, like did you feel like you needed to have, like your purpose got lost, right? And was that really the core of it? Like you lost that purpose in life? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I was searching for purpose for a really long time. I remember up and through college, feeling like I just knew what I needed to do, right? Life had put me on the conveyor belt, and I had done all the things on the conveyor belt. And then I graduated college, and I was like, I don't have a conveyor belt. Like, I don't know what to do next. I know I'm supposed to get a job, but what job? And it was very confusing. And I was really searching for myself for a long time, trying to figure out what my purpose was. And I had not found it by the time I became a mother. And then I didn't feel that sense of purpose in motherhood the way some people do. For some people, motherhood gives them a great sense of purpose. And I love my children. I have 2 children. I had one after my daughter that we haven't talked about, but the boy. And I love them deeply. And yes, part of my purpose is to be their mother. But I always felt that I had I don't want to say a bigger purpose, because that's a big purpose, but another purpose. It was not my only purpose. It was to be their mother.
Right.
But also trying to find that balance is really difficult once you become a mom, trying to also do all the other things outside of being a mom. So I felt really lost for a really long time before I ever developed chronic migraine. And then once I developed chronic migraine, I had this lack of purpose, but I also had this pain condition. So prior to developing chronic migraine, although I was still kind of confused about what my purpose was and searching for it, I still felt happy most of the time. I enjoyed my life. I did things that were, fun and enjoyable, and I really just had a nice life, had a fun life. So I would describe myself as happy, a little lost, but happy. But then once I developed this chronic pain condition, I was lost and in deep sorrow. Mm-hmm. I was so deeply sad. And what I realized during that journey is that there's a very big difference between happiness and joy. And that sorrow and joy can coexist in the same exact second. You can both be sorrowful and joyful. And that joy is so much deeper than happiness. I'll take joy over happiness any day of the week. And so I then began to dive into that. How is it? How can I experience both these emotions at the same time? How can I be so deeply depressed, but also feel this tremendous sense of gratitude in the same exact moment, and this connection with something bigger than myself, and sense of this sense of depth that I had never experienced before. And I realized it's in purpose. That's where that came from, in purpose, which I do believe a lot of our purpose is to serve. The way we serve, how we serve, is very different from person to person to person, but that our true purpose in this life, every one of us, is to serve in our own way. And so that's how that all kind of came together for me. It was this realization that I could find deep joy, gratitude, and connection without necessarily being happy. And that there's a very big difference between those two things. And that I could pull myself out of depression. I could work my way, climb my way out of that hole of depression by leaning into purpose where I felt joy. And then eventually landed in joy and happiness, right? I can eventually circle back to both. But I started out without happiness. I just started out with purpose and feeling that sense of joy in the purpose, which then led me to the happiness.
I've never heard anyone say that joy and happiness are different, but when you say it like that, it makes sense. And yeah, no, I'm happy to hear that you've come back to happiness too. And when you were talking about how you were in such deep sorrow, like I felt that in my heart, like as you were talking. Um, but yeah, no, everything you said makes a lot of sense. Can I ask what was happening in your life when the migraines started? Because for me, like figuring out what was causing my headaches, like I really had to do some deep soul searching about like why that point in time, like why they just started then.
So ironically, my headaches or migraines, because there's a very big difference between a headache and a migraine, but started after the birth of my first child. So when I had my daughter, I started getting them once a month just with my cycle. I would get them. They were very easily treated. They would last anywhere from a couple hours to a day, go away. That was it. They did not really impact my life significantly at all. They remained that way all the way through my pregnancy with my son, where I had zero migraines the entire pregnancy. And then because I didn't have a cycle, so I was like, okay, I'm probably not getting migraines because I don't have a cycle right now. And then after the birth of my son is when they just completely went out of control. And at first, I attributed it to sleep deprivation because I've always been, as we mentioned earlier, sensitive to not getting enough sleep. So I just kind of thought, oh, when he starts sleeping better, these will get better. But they didn't. They just continued to spiral downward.
That's really interesting. It's interesting that you didn't have them during pregnancy. Maybe like a hormone thing, but
yeah, I've always strongly suspected hormones, but there's not really a way to figure that out.
yeah, one thing that was interesting when I figured out what was causing my headaches. For me, it was just like it was stress and getting so caught up in like the emotions of this earthly experience, really. But when I looked back at the time, I believed it was they started when I was working in the tech industry and I wasn't on like the path that I was supposed to go on. Like that's not where I was meant to be in life. And that was kind of my body telling me. But I believed at the time that they were caused by looking at a computer all day. And then when I left the tech industry and I left to become a yoga teacher and I went on to become a director of this yoga company for a while, the migraine or the headaches didn't stop. But then I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, it must be because I'm looking at my phone a lot during the commute. And so, but what that did was like, I'm a huge believer. What I teach is like, what you believe becomes your reality. So because I believed that so much, that the headaches were caused by looking at the computer too long or the phone too long, anytime I would look at my computer or phone, even if it was for just like 5 minutes a day, like a headache would get triggered because I believed that was my story and I believed it so wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing that out there as food for thought for you. Like, do with it what you will. Um, because it's interesting. It's like, okay, just when you said like, oh, it was because my cycle every month, it was like, okay, that just reminded me so much of how I was like anytime I looked at a computer.
Right.
So just putting that out there, like, take it as you will, or just throw it away after this conversation or whatever you need to do.
I will. It'll be food for thought. I don't know how it would, because even now in the past couple of years, they were better managed. And they've becoming increasingly less well managed over the past couple of years. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? But I am realizing that I'm perimenopausal and I'm thinking, oh, well, is this but am I just believing that? Or, is that the reality of what's happening?
Who knows? Maybe both. Maybe it's just hormones. Who knows? I'm
Right.
just food for thought.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so when you're working with people, have you noticed that like helping them figure out their life purpose has helped their own mental health issues? Like, how have you seen that affect others beyond yourself and your own family?
Yes, yes. People come to me, and kind of similar to what you were saying, where you were in this job that really wasn't right for you and you were getting headaches. People come to me with physical ailments. That's less common. What's more common is they realize later that the physical ailments are related to the fact that they're not living their purpose. They usually come to me with more mental stuff, more like, I feel so purposeless. I feel uninspired. Life is just kind of dull and in black and white. I feel anxious all the time. I feel a low level sense of depression. I feel like I'm not making an impact. Like, why am I even here? What's the point of my life? Like, I am not doing anything to make this world a better place. They feel all these kind of more mental. That's why they come to me. But then later, when they start engaging in their purpose, they're like, oh my gosh, I felt tired all the time. I was so tired. I had to nap every afternoon. Like, I couldn't keep my eyes open. And now I have energy for days. I just, like the Energizer bunny. I just go and go and go. Or my headaches have disappeared because I just feel so much better. Oh, their relationships. That's the other thing. My spouse and I are not fighting as much. My kids and I are not fighting as much. I'm meeting like people, because a lot of times people will comment, and particularly in this day and age, I think with social media, community can be a struggle. Finding like a community where you feel like you really fit and you can have those closer connections. But when they start engaging in these things that are so deeply meaningful to them and so part of their essence, they inevitably start, again, it's kind of like a manifestation, right? They're focusing, this is what they're focusing on and they're putting their energy on. And so they start bumping in to people and things that support their Dharma. And they start developing this beautiful community. So all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, like I have these friends that I've met and they also love doing this thing. And now we're doing it together. And, so there's so many beautiful aspects that come from basically returning to yourself, right? Really just being who you were designed to be in this life and shedding all the layers of culture and family and the layers we put on ourselves, the expectations we put on ourselves. And they feel that sense of joy that I'm talking about, right? They start noticing the difference between happiness and joy, because happiness is very fleeting. Happiness is, hey, I got a new car. Like, I love it. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy, right? But then what happens? A month later, you're like, oh my God, this car bill is really expensive. Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? That's happiness. Joy doesn't go away. It's deep and meaningful, and it seeps into every area of your life, and it makes you feel connected, and it makes you feel grateful, and it gives you energy. And it's like this never-ending well, right, of all of those feelings that we really came here to feel in this life. But we really, I think, in our culture, confused happiness and joy and confused what will bring us the feelings that we're really seeking. And so that's what I help people to uncover and to find in their lives.
Totally. On that last part, I mean, especially with social media, when people see all of these people's highlight reels, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they're so happy because they're traveling and they have the money and the big house and the, whatever. And it's like, oh, that's what I need to attain happiness.
Yeah.
Um,
And that is a
but
lot of
yeah.
my clients. It's people who are like, I did all the things. Like I got the education, I got married, I had the kids, I bought the house, I have the job, like I have the second house, but I am still so deeply unhappy and I can't figure out why. And that's the journey that we take.
Yeah. And I also like that you were talking about, you know, I say it a little bit differently, but it's the same thing. It's like once you start following your joy and your passion and like going after the life of your dreams, like the right people appear on your path. It's like a magnetism, right? And like doors open and connections are made. And it's, I mean, to me, that's the law of attraction because you're on that path that you're meant to be on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you can be open, when I started my podcast, I started it for various reasons. And all of those things I've been, have come to fruition with the reasons why I started the podcast. But what I have loved the most about my podcast that I didn't anticipate going into it was the community of people that I would form around me, because I am having beautiful conversations like this one with heart-centered, women who are trying to make this world a better place. And I just didn't anticipate that I would just have such beautiful relationships in my life. Like if nothing else ever came out of my podcast other than that, it would have been worth it to me. So you just can't anticipate the beauty that's going to come out of something that you do that is done from the heart and is part of just who you are and who you're meant to be in this world and how you're meant to serve. Because my podcast it's service. It's for people to hear these discussions, see themselves in these discussions, feel less alone, gain, skills or new ways of thinking, or even just an awareness about a topic that they start, thinking, you know what, I need to take a little deeper dive into that who knows how that could change their lives. That's why I started my podcast. And so it comes from my heart. It's a form of service. It's part of my essence, my Dharma, who I am. And what came out of it is this beautiful network of people. So, I mean, you just can't ask for better than that.
That gave me goosebumps. That's so beautiful. And you're totally right. It's like we have no idea the beauty and the amazing things that are waiting for us on the other side of taking that step, right?
Yes, you have no idea, what amazing things are going to come into your life. And a lot of times they are the things that you least expect or you didn't think of. And those are the best parts. Those are the sparkly bits, right? Those are the most amazing parts of the journey. Yeah.
Totally, sparkly bits. I like that.
Yeah.
So, what is your advice for listeners who might be thinking like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is. Like this lady's totally talking my like what I'm thinking, but they're not ready to like dive into coaching yet. Like what's like one little thing that they can take away to help them figure out what their purpose is?
Well, first of all, if that's you saying that out there, I see you, I feel you. That was me for so many years. And it's a journey. Let's just put it that way. It's a journey. It's not something that, I wanted it. I can tell you that personally, and I don't think I'm alone. I wanted the answer. I wanted it now. I wanted it, yesterday. But it is a journey and it takes a little bit of time. But one of the first steps that you could do would be head over to my website, momontheverge.org, which I know you'll put in the show notes. And there is a freebie there, and it's 3 journal prompts for discovering your Dharma. And I would download that and I would start working on those journal prompts and, starting to pull back the layers, because that's really what this is all about. It's not about trying to find something that's not there. It's there. We're just going to uncover it. Or another way I like to say it is, clean off the glass. The glass is all dirty, so you're not really seeing clearly, and we're going to start cleaning the glass. So they can do that for free. I can also send you another a workbook I have that is inexpensive. I think it's like $20 or so. That is for 5 steps for discovering your Dharma. So again, 5 like activities that you can do to start cleaning the glass or pulling back the layers.
Amazing. I wasn't even expecting you to have resources ready to go. So perfect. You're prepared. Awesome. We just have a few minutes left. Is there anything that we missed today that you really want to touch on or that you really want people to hear?
I don't think there's anything that we missed. I just want to reiterate to say that the things that are happening in your life that I call them the things you would not prefer, right? Because it's all neutral. It's not good. It's not bad, but we certainly would prefer certain things and not prefer others. And so those challenges, those things that in the moment feel insurmountable, you want to say, why me? Why is this happening? They're there for a reason. And if you open your heart and if you open your mind, you will grow and expand from them. You will become a better person for going through them. And you will be grateful at some point that you had that experience. Maybe not the whole experience. Maybe there are things, you can't say I was grateful for, but something will come out of that experience that if you are willing and open to allowing it, you will be grateful for. Something will come out of it. And those are the things that lead us back to our Dharma. Those are the things when we pay attention to them, because sometimes we need to have certain experiences before we can get there.
Amazing. And that just came full loop because that's what we were talking about in the beginning, that most of us who are out here serving have gone through it ourselves. And we're like, we don't want someone else to take decades to get to where we are. Yes. Like maybe we can offer this and then they have like a little bit more of a head start.
Yes. Expedite the process a little bit.
Yeah. And that's not to say that you're going to skip everything, but you're a little bit further along.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, because we are not at the end yet either, right?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
We're still alive and breathing. Like there's still more to learn and do. Yeah. Awesome. So, I know you just said your website, but is there anywhere else people can connect with you or anything else you want to share about what you're offering?
Yeah, so they can go to my website. They can listen to my podcast, which is the same name, Mom on the Verge, and it's anywhere you can find podcasts. They can sign up for my newsletter. I do send a weekly newsletter with all kinds of teachings about mindfulness, mental health, emotional well-being. A lot of it, I wouldn't say a lot of it, but a good bit of it is based in like Vedic philosophy and yogic wisdom. And I will also give you the link for that 5 steps to discovering your Dharma workbook. And then if you are in the New Jersey area, I teach once a week a philosophy class at my local yoga studio. So that's called Balance Planet Yoga, and that's in New Jersey.
Amazing. Do you teach asana or no?
Every once in a while I teach asana, but I primarily teach philosophy. I primarily do asana and teach philosophy. That's my passion. Great. That's my Dharma. So yeah.
They say we teach what we need to hear, right?
Yes. 100%.
That's been like so true in my life.
It's so true. It's so true. And every time I teach some form of philosophy, I get more out of it. Every time I see a new level of it. It's like reading a book more than once or watching a movie more than once. You just get more the second time and the third time. And that's so true of these teachings as well.
Totally. And do you find also that like teaching something helps you understand it on a deeper level because you have to like figure out how to make it accessible and explain it to other people?
Absolutely. Yes. And then the discussion that goes back and forth is beautiful too. Mm-hmm. So, I present these topics, but I'm not, we have discussion about them. People have questions about them. And through that discussion, you can see how people view things from different lenses and viewpoints and perspectives based on their life experiences. And that deepens it even further. And it's really beautiful. Really grateful.
That's really cool that you do that. Yeah. Well, if I'm ever in New Jersey, I'm going to pop in for one of those because they sound really fun.
Thank you.
Well, I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on and just being so authentically yourself and vulnerable. Like you really are walking the walk. Everything that you say in your bio that you encourage other people to do, you're out there doing it yourself. And people feel that. People feel your authenticity. So thank you. I appreciate your time so much. If you are listening and this resonated, please like, comment, share, subscribe, send it to someone that you think could use it. We touched on so much today. I think someone can relate, pretty much everyone can relate to something that we talked about today. So share it with people because again, people can feel isolated when they're going through these kind of circumstances. And that's it. I'll see you all next week. Have a beautiful rest of your day.